Hi, everyone. I have an exclusive discount for Hard Calls listeners to Pendemonium, Pendo's product festival. I would like to invite you to join me in Raleigh, North Carolina from March 24th to 26th with an exclusive 30% discount when you use the code HARDCALLS30. That's Hard Calls, all lowercase, and the numbers 30. Get your discounted ticket at pendo.io/Pendemonium. See you there.
It's everyone's problem because it's the guest problem. And when these conversations are hard, the only thing that can help avoid conflict in a conflict avoidant culture is data. And that's something that has been so helpful. Understanding the business through data or the product through data has been key for sure. So we've been analyzing this much more in the previous 2-3 years by using Pendo, Power BI, the Amazon data lake, and different things for us to really understand. And this has been totally key, because if not, then it looks like a subjective or an opinion, and then you don't even get to the conversations where you do have to talk about taste. And because not everything is data, but we have to give room to those conversations and start talking only about taste when it has to be about taste, and from data about data.
Hi, I'm Trisha Price, and welcome back to Hard Calls, the podcast where we bring on the best product leaders from across the globe. Today, our guest is Anuar Chapur. Anuar is the Chief Product and Technology Officer at the Palace Company, which encompasses luxury hospitality properties in Mexico, the Caribbean, Italy, and the Maldives. Clearly places we would all love to be right now. Anuar has spearheaded the transformation from a project-based model to a product operating model within his organization. This has enhanced innovation, customer satisfaction in all of their hotels through leveraging technology. This strategic shift has significantly contributed to the guest satisfaction, the company's success, and the reputation in the luxury hotel sector. I've been eager to have this conversation and discuss how a leading luxury hospitality brand translates guest experiences into user experiences, and how to discuss AI, data, and why the fundamentals of great product management matters most. Anuar, welcome to Hard Calls.
Thank you, Trisha. Great to be here for myself instead of reference, because funny enough, I've been referenced twice in Hard Calls podcast.
Oh,
I
yes.
heard it
Tell us,
randomly. Yeah.
before we start, tell us about your first time on Hard Calls podcast.
Yeah, I was just listening to the podcast, and my idol, Marty Kagan, mentioned a Mexican company who was trying to transform, and I'm proud enough to say that's the Palace Company. That's me. And the second one was just in your last podcast, which was great, with my coach and friend, Gabby Buffram.
Amazing. So this is actually your third time really being mentioned, and now you're a star on the Hard Calls podcast. I think you're our only guest to date who's been mentioned in 3 different episodes. So congrats for that, Anwar.
Thanks.
I
Great
know.
podcast, by the way, and great topic, which is kind of different, but also very interesting
Thank
about
you.
product.
Yeah. And I think, it's so great that you've been mentioned twice and now you're on here to tell the story, because to your point about the Hard Calls podcast, it's a little different. Like, we're talking about real life decisions as product leaders that we have to make. And it's here to be a community and to help other people around us. And I love that your friend Gabby has helped you and has helped others. And I hope today's conversation with you helps many other people as well.
I hope so too.
Well, first off, tell us a little bit, Anwar, just about your company, the Palace Company, and your role.
Sure, I'll be happy to. The Palace Company is a family Mexican company that started 40 years ago in Cancun and has expanded since all over the globe. It's a very dynamic and traditional in a way, but also very enthusiastic about innovation and ways of serving our guests in a better way, which has been very good for us. And we see many repetitive clients. So we always try to find a new way of serving them in the hotels that they come to. We have different brands. Moon Palace, which is huge resorts in the Mexico and the Caribbean. Palace Resorts, which is smaller hotels at the beach, also in Mexico. LeBlanc, which is super high-end luxury with butler service, amazing food and dining options. Although in all of the hotels we have very good service, that is just an extra step above. And now with Baglioni Hotels, Italian chain that we acquired 2 years ago, now we have super boutique hotels in the most iconic Italian destinations and in the Maldives. So we have a very broad range of different services with the portfolio, and we think that we can give a very boutique and specialized service in massive hotels like the ones that are in Moon Palace brand by using the technology and leveraging on that for that reason. So it's very interesting to be in product and technology for a company that is not primarily selling technology, which makes it extra interesting.
It does, and I can't wait to dig into that a bit more and to hear how you've transformed to the product operating model and how that's translated into success and outcomes for your company. But before we do that, this is the Hard Calls podcast. And so we like to start every episode with one of the hardest calls you've had to make. So Anwar, why don't you share with us today, looking back over your career, just what's a really hard call? What made it challenging? And how did you decide it? How'd you make the hard call?
Mm. Yeah, the question I was hoping you would skip.
Never.
I like it. So I mentioned it's a family company, and there's nothing I've desired most since I was a small kid than to be involved with the company, having conversations over the table at dinner about with my brothers and my father about what we can do with the company, how to improve it. And with technology, once I started in technology, there was a very um, there was a moment where I thought that I was doing things right. Everyone thought I was doing things right, but I really wasn't. So when I started realizing that it was just that we were just focusing on output and that there was no real value in what I was doing, and that it literally made no sense for me to come to the office and work, I started realizing that things had to change. But I was the first one to realize it. And those conversations were really hard because we agreed that we should work on what my brothers had as ideas of what I should do in with this kind of software, this new replatform effort or different things. But when I started realizing that that was not really the problem, those conversations leveled up. So when I made the hard call of deciding I'm not willing to work this way, and I'd rather stop working in the family company that continue coming every day to the office and yes, have those conversations about what we can do, but in the inside know that I am not really driving any value. I started. I decided that, and as Gabby said, I said there's no plan B. I will not do this way anymore. So those conversations were long and hard, but and over for over a year. But at the end, my stubbornness and having made that hard call in a very clear way kind of sparked I believe it sparked a a thought in my brothers and the directors of the company's mind that said maybe he has a reason why he says this. And I did have a reason, and I was stubborn about it because I had this guiding light that are the books from Mark and Gabby's coaching that I knew that were the right way and that they were there. I just had to get to the guiding light, like a boat that's coming to an island, which is a metaphor I like. So but that certainty that Hardcore made and those conversations showing the value and the real reason behind my stubbornness really made an impact in the way we work at the Palace company, and we continue to transform towards the product operating model, which is not a done deal because
It's
it's always
never a
kind.
done deal,
Yeah,
right? I
exactly.
think product maturity and product transformation is something that is an evolution, not a revolution, right? We kind of constantly have to evolve and get better. And that's because our businesses change, we learn more, but it's also the markets we serve change and the tools change, right? Like with AI, etc. So I think it's great that you have that constantly improving mindset, and that even though you have transformed and we're going to talk about what results you got from that, but that you have the mindset that you're not done, because we as product people are never done. Um, you don't adopt a product operating model, right? You move to the product operating model, but you have to constantly invest and get better.
And we're always that annoying voice saying that things can be better, done better, that these things are not totally right. And even though the results are right, the company results, the department results are fine, are good, and are breaking records. We always know that things can be just a little better, and that we're always looking for those wrong things that we've made so that we can improve them in the future.
Well, I love your hard call, and I mean, what makes it even more special and difficult is not only did you take a physical company and transform it to the product operating model, but you also did it in a family atmosphere, which is even more complicated. So congratulations for that. I'd love for you to share a little bit more on how you think about product leadership in a physical hospitality business. Like usually when we think about product people, we think about people who are selling software. You're selling physical experiences. So why is transforming to the product operating model or having a product mindset important in your business?
I like this question because it's a very common question, especially for, let's say, candidates who maybe don't understand why it would be interesting as a product manager to work in a hotel. Maybe they think that the only thing we do with technology is have Wi-Fi for the guests, but this is this is totally the other way around. We do so many things to improve, and we leverage on technology so much to improve not only the booking and the digital aspect of the guests discovering the hotel and booking it and coming to the hotel, but also the physical experience. So yes, we do the first part. We optimize for conversion in the booking engine, and we have done that in a very, very good and efficient way to bring more and more guests. But once they are in the property, we optimize so much for that and for the guest experience, which is very, very satisfying to see. This is not a session, a user, a replay. This is not a click or a number. This is happiness made through the experience at the hotel. Maybe from making something magical happen, like getting them the table at the restaurant they haven't dined at while they're at the hotel. So these are very big hotels, 2,000, 3,000 room hotels, so huge, and many, many different restaurants and options to go for dinner. But if it's high season and the restaurants that are most demanded are already full, and it's a common concern for guests. What we have done in the past is just increase the size of the restaurant. Literally, many times we've either remodeled the restaurant to change it to a new concept that is more attractive, or the ones that are very attractive, expand them if a physical space allows for it. So twice the size. So those kinds of things are the traditional solutions. But what we have started doing is maybe with data optimize for the seatings, for the times they are at, maybe show them in the app what they can do at the time where bookings are the most demanded, maybe a show that is happening somewhere near so that they are also interested in doing something different than having dinner at 6:30 p.m., which is the most demanded time. Or if it is full and they still want to go and they haven't been to that restaurant, they can go to the app and ask for be in the waiting list, and we optimize for those guests who have not gone to that restaurant and their checkout is most near, so that we assure them a table at that restaurant. So magical things happen like that, but without them knowing that we're optimizing for it. Or that little moment in time where you are at the hotel and you come to the room very tired, and once you're there, you find that the housekeeping staff is cleaning your room, and it's so annoying because you do want it clean, but it's kind of an uncomfortable moment. So we should know that this person is having dinner, and so that we are cleaning the room while they're not there. Maybe have them give them a little detail if they had a romantic dinner and they're a couple, prepare the jacuzzi for them, have some flowers put in the room, things that can be done only in small boutique hotels, but at scale. So technology doesn't replace service, it helps it scale.
I love how you've built a product because the way you're talking and thinking about these experiences, it is a product. It isn't just technology, but I love how you've built a product to really focus on the guest experience. And while the user interface, the technology, it might not be what guests interact with. Sometimes it might be, right? But even though it's not always, everything you do is about making that guest experience amazing. And I know that you can't do that without significant feedback from the guests themselves, from the people who work. You mentioned the butlers and all of the people who actually work with the guests. So how do you build feedback into your culture and into your process?
Yeah, and I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit because I'm sure you'll ask something about AI, and this is a good answer using AI because this is the first product we did by analyzing the responses of the guests out of our feedback that we had at the end of their stay, so that we can categorize it in main categories and subcategories and sentiment, and to understand what they're talking about and complaining about or saying that something worked very well, so that we can optimize in that sentiment and improve, to know where we can improve. Maybe it's something outside of the hotel, the transfer from the airport to the hotel, or something that we had not think about before. And that's one way. And the other one is micro service, micro feedback, very specific times, and because we want to improve something. Maybe they, after having a room service delivered, we can ask, how was it, the temperature, whatever we're trying to improve, we ask them that micro survey, and that's the data that we get. But also being super in touch with the clients. If somebody had a problem, reach out as a product and technology team to understand what happened, being present at the hotels, going there and seeing how they interact with the staff, the technology, the app, whatever it is. We have to be very present, and that's something we didn't do before. The people that from my team, product and technology, had never been to the hotel or never spoken to a client, and that's so different now. We do speak a lot with them, and of course, it's a very relaxed scenario with them at the coffee shop at the hotel or at the beach on the pool, and they're just having a good time. So they're super willing to either give feedback or good recommendations too.
Anwar, I love that as you transformed to the product operating model and transformed your team to thinking about the guest experience, that you've really prioritized time on site and time with customers. That's so important for all of us as product managers. And the more we use AI, like your example with summarizing the feedback from surveys, the more we have time to spend with customers and really understand what they're looking for and what makes them happy. And so I think that's really great that you've prioritized that and made that change culturally in your team. I've heard you talk about this a little bit, which is that in your culture, warmth and hospitality come naturally, right? And not just in your business, but also in Latin American cultures. But I've also heard you say that healthy conflict in product decisions aren't always natural, right? You might want to agree. It might be more culturally normal to agree with everything versus healthy conflict. Well, you and I both know that you cannot create the best product experiences. You cannot create a true product culture without disagreement and a little bit of conflict here and there. Sometimes a lot. Sometimes that's between two product people. Sometimes that's between product and design, or sometimes it's between product and engineering. So, how did you do that? How did you change the culture in your team and create space for disagreement?
Yeah, and it also happens with somebody and their boss, or somebody and the boss from a different department, maybe marketing, sales, whatever. So it is very common in Latin America to want to be nice with people, and yeah, let's not discuss. I'll say yes and then kind of do it, but instead of just saying no, this doesn't make any sense. But at the end, the one who suffers is the guest, the user, the that person who wanted to just enjoy their vacation. So we had to change that, and it's just a cultural thing. We need to be there and say, let's be able to disagree. Let's have these difficult conversations, and let's not just design something, send it to development, and then to production. And if this didn't work, I'll just say that this wasn't my fault. It was somebody else's idea or whatever. But that really creates a lot of problems. So it's everyone's problem because it's the guest problem. And when these conversations are hard, the only thing that can help avoid conflict in a conflict avoidant culture is data. And that's something that has been so helpful. Understanding the business through data or the product through data has been key for sure. So we've been analyzing this much more in the previous 2 3 years by using Pendo, the Power BI, the Amazon Data Lake, and different things for us to really understand. And this has been totally key, because if not, then it looks like a subjective or an opinion, and then you don't even get to the conversations where you do have to talk about taste. And because not everything is data, but we have to give room to those conversations and start talking only about taste when it has to be about taste, and from data about data, which is nice.
I agree with you. Data is key, and data is key to building great products. Data is key, to your point, to help reduce tension in a difficult conversation. But at the end of the day, great product managers do have to have taste. They have to have product sense. And some of that comes from spending time with data, but in my opinion, it mostly comes from obsessing about the guest experience or the end user experience and making sure you're giving your team time for that, which I know you are. So I really agree with you in that combination of a data-driven culture that allows for robust discussion, and then most importantly, obsessing over our end users, or in your case, the guests.
Or if you still don't get to an agreement, just watch the user interact with your product, and you will then see
Yeah,
how things really
there's
are.
one truth, really, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, Anwar, a couple of years ago at a Pendo event, I heard Will Guterres speak, and he was amazing. And he wrote the book Unreasonable Hospitality. And he told us so many stories at 11 Madison Park where they went above and beyond to provide unreasonable hospitality. And we had him speak at our company kickoff, and to really set the stage for our company to make sure that every employee of Pendo provides unreasonable hospitality to our users. And I know this is important to you because you're in the business of hospitality. But tell me, how do you use data? How do you use technology? How do you use product thinking to deliver unreasonable hospitality, moments of delight that feel human, not automated?
Yeah, I like that. And I really like unreasonable hospitality, and also setting the table from Danny Meyer, who worked with Will Guidara, and actually Mari recommended his book to me. And we kind of twisted that concept to one of ours, which is coloring moments. So we say procedures are black and white, but hospitality is colorful. So let's color the moments for our guests and make them feel welcome, and let's be hospitable instead of just being compliant with what we have to do. So technology can really help, but this really ends up being part of the staff at the hotel. So they have to want to do this. We cannot just have robots do things for a guest at the end. We also think that an interface is our interfaces are not just the app, the web, and that it's the staff at the hotel. So we have to give them the tools for that interface to work. So if the way of for a bellboy to check who is coming to the hotel is by asking them, "Hello, what's your name and what's your reservation number," so that I can look into the list of arrivals from an Excel printed spreadsheet, it's not a very hospitable way of giving somebody the welcome. If instead we know that Mr. Chapur is in van 202 and we know that this is the van that is coming because it says it outside, we can just give them the welcome by their name and maybe a specific detail that we know about their stay or that they have been before or whatever. So that's just one really simple example about this. And then there's some that are totally offline, totally not about the technology, but really important for us. And I love this story about a kid that was every day playing with the Christmas gifts at from the decoration, but the bellboy saw that this kid was playing with it, and his mom was saying, "Hey, don't open those gifts. These are decorations." So he, by himself, went to the Walmart next door and bought a gift and put it inside of the box. And they told the mom, let him open the gift. So he opened it and he saw the Christmas gift that was made for him. So that's so special. And that's something that can really be done with excellent human service. And also with procedures not being there, taking all of their time, making these different things that they have to do to do their job. So giving space for this magic to happen. And there are some others that are very, very data driven, like let's say, which kind of beer this person ordered at the pool so that we can use this information to put that kind of beer inside their minibar at the room instead of just putting one of each kind so that we know that he has or he or she has what they want. So it's a combination of everything, and I really uh, love working in this because we allow for these kind of things to happen.
I love that last, well, I love all of those examples, but as a product person and as a technologist, I really love that last example because what a great technical feature that you built, right? Being able to take the data from the restaurant, the pool, and my ordering preferences, and then proactively provide a physical experience by having that particular beverage in the minibar. That is such an amazing connection from the digital to the physical, and such a clear way that your product thinking and your investment in technology can provide a better physical experience. That is such a clear example of product thinking, but turning it into the physical experience.
Yeah, totally. And the social aspect is one that is very important too. We can't just connect the staff with the guest. We should also connect the guest between themselves because guests are there to meet other people, to hang around, to maybe make some friends. Maybe the teenager who is bored of their parents wants to meet other teenagers who are there also looking for somebody to play tennis with or golf with or go to the disco at the hotel. Whatever it is, um, they should be able to connect, and we will not replace human connection with the stuff we say. We I like to say that we we connect people, not replace connections. So by connecting people that are have the same interests and want to do things together and maybe make some new friends, we can create a whole sense of community inside of the hotels that transcends the hotel outside of it so that they want to come back together with the friends they made at the hotel and all of that. And that's something we want to work on. And also something that um, Airbnb, for example, which is an amazing company and product and competitor of ours, would not be able to do. So it's something that they want to do with service and experiences, but not at the hospitality or stay product. And that's something that hotels have and an Airbnb would never have.
That is a really cool example because I'm getting ready to go away for the Christmas holiday next week, and I was packing and I put my pickleball stuff aside. And I said to my husband, "Do you think we'll be able to find some people to play pickleball with next week?" So I know that your
Yeah.
guests would enjoy an easy way to digitally connect. Because, I mean, otherwise, what are you going to do? Go to the pool and ask everyone there, they look like they play, or you just go to the pickleball court and hope you find someone, right?
And there's never someone there because nobody would go there to find someone to play with.
Right. But if I had an in-app experience, a digital experience where I could say, "Hey, does anyone want to play around this time?" I can see that being great. And then that turns into a friendship where you have dinner that evening or a beer by the pool. So what a great idea. Anwar, I have a little bit of a different question around people. As you know from listening to hard calls, we like to talk about data, we like to talk about product, but at the end of the day, it takes people to build a product and a product team. And you did an amazing job of a transformation and a change of culture. People is the hardest part of changing culture and changing mindset to product. How did you do that with your team? Did you have to hire a lot of new people? Did you invest in training, bringing in coaches? How did you change the team's mindset to be product oriented?
All of the above and more. So that was actually one of the possible answers that I was going to give about the hard calls because it is a very hard call to make to change the leadership team that we had that was optimizing for a software factory instead of a product model, a product company. They could not understand that way of working. The good thing is that the engineers, the product managers, the designers were eager for this. They really wanted to make an impact, to do things that really were built for something more than just having Jira completed or whatever. So the hard call was changing all the leadership team. So um, for a moment, I didn't have a leadership team because I'd rather not have one than have the wrong one, so that we are able to really um, coach and teach the people, the engineers and the product managers and designers and data and to be able to do all the things that we were able to do. But at the end, that of course doesn't scale. So we now have an amazing CTO that comes from Booking.com that has all the experience in the industry, but more than that, he's very interested in the business, what has very good technical experience and is really helping a lot to build this amazing product team that evolves with the company and that pushes it forward. And the leadership team is now fully assembled, and now we're hiring so that we can do all the things that we want to do, some of which we already discussed here, and so many more. But the team is totally key. I could not do it myself. I could not do it alone. Even with AI, it's impossible to make it with good designers who really understand what the client is feeling, what they want to achieve, how this really makes sense with some other thing that is maybe inside of a physical hotel or within this other product, how we make a coherent experience that really makes sense, and it's super important for us. And we're based in Merida, Mexico, a small town that has a lot of good talent, but not enough for to make it happen. We are recruiting as many people as we can, but people have come from Colombia, from Spain, now from Sydney. An amazing girl that Marty recommended to contact us. So we're looking for people that can come in and believe in our vision and want to drive the impact in a very different kind of industry that usually don't do product well. So that's what we've been at, and I think that that's my main job, to gather an amazing team, and we're on our way for that.
I love that. I agree with you. I've always said my number one skill is being able to assemble an A plus team and then get everybody rowing in the right direction. And
That's our product, right?
that's it. That is our product. That's right. And I think when you are driving outcomes versus features, that's easier to do, right? Because you can collect a group of people, you can align on the outcome you're trying to drive. And then because you have trust, because you've assembled an A+ team, you can trust them on the day-to-day features and decisions. And that's what great product people want. They want to be empowered, but we as leaders have to make sure that we're delivering the outcomes. So the only way to do that is when you have a product mindset and you're product led.
For sure. They say it's difficult to operate a restaurant, and it is, but to operate a hotel chain with so many different kinds of guests, and we have over 70 restaurants. So across the whole across all of the company. So how to do that and making sure that in every different operation things are done well and taken care of from the sales, operation, membership, all of the different aspects of it, and of course the finance that we cannot forget of, and accountant and all of that. How can this be done in a proper way? Only with a great team that are empowered and capable of making really good decisions by themselves and just making sure that they work together well.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the Hard Calls podcast, Anwar. I appreciate you sharing your story of the intersection between the physical experience, the guest experience, and your product, your digital experience. So I know that our listeners are really going to enjoy learning from you about unreasonable hospitality and all of the changes you've made and the transformation you've made. So congratulations to you and your team for the success. And I am excited to continue getting to know you and watching your success over the future years.
Thank you, Trisha. I enjoyed it. And sorry for the choppy English. Next time we'll do it in Spanish. So I'm
Well,
more confident.
your English was great. My Spanish is terrible.
Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thanks, Anwar. Thank you for listening to Hard Calls, the product podcast where we share best practices and all the things you need to succeed. If you enjoyed the show today, share it with your friends and come back for more.